Welcome to HR Voices, real talk with people leaders who are in it every day. We get into the messy stuff, the challenges that keep them up at night, and how they're actually fixing them. No corporate fluff, just smart conversations for people who care about people. HR Voices is brought to you by All Voices, the platform that cuts hours of manual HR work with step-by-step workflows and AI to assist with investigations, performance improvement, accommodations, leave requests, and more, so you can get back to the human side of HR. Welcome to HR Voices. I'm Emily Finnick, and today I get to chat with Tommy Comer, who's the CHRO at HealthPRO Heritage. Welcome, Tommy.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. So HealthPRO Heritage is a nationwide provider of therapy, rehab, wellness services to healthcare organizations. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business, your people, your customers, and your role as CHRO?
Sure. So I've been fortunate to lead HR at HealthPRO Heritage for about 9 months now. And what we do is we provide therapists to different healthcare settings. So long-term care companies, senior living companies partner with us and we provide therapy for their residents. We also have our own pediatric sites where we provide therapy to different children, a variety of different needs. And then there's even some home health in there. So it's a national organization. We're in, I think, 44 states at this point. So big.
Yeah, and prior to that, you've been leading the people function at some senior living institutes. You've been in healthcare for quite some time.
Yeah, I think 15 years total. I've been in healthcare. And it's funny, I fell into it. I got lucky. Senior living in particular is such a great field for people strategy because we're not building widgets. It's literally humans touching humans. The people strategy is very important.
Yeah, you can't automate. I mean, you can automate some pieces of care, but you definitely still need a lot of people. So maybe talk to me a little bit about healthcare. I know you said you got lucky, and I find your perspective really, refreshing because sometimes what I read, sometimes what I hear is that healthcare can be one of the most challenging environments for the HR function. So talk to me about your optimism and maybe what what I've been hearing, like what's challenging about it, what's great about it.
The challenges are real. I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. I like to say the employee employer compact value proposition contract, implied contract that really has changed in different ways. And I like to think we try to lean into that and just accept it. I don't think the old adage of here's a job, you should be happy having the job is ever going to come back. And it is sobering though when you look at things like Gallup research saying almost half the workforce is actively looking for another job. And it does feel like that at times. But the optimist in me is still finding the reasons why someone wants to stay haven't changed all that much. I mean, it's the relationship with your supervisor is still critical. It's, are you paid a fair rate? Do you have some flexibility? Are you recognized for a good job well done? That has not changed. And I think employers or even just a supervisor who does those well tends to have different outcomes. So that I think that's where I try to start when I look at that daunting challenge that we have in
Right.
healthcare.
Right. Well, more specific, when you say the contract has changed, can you give me a little bit more context on what you're referencing? I'm assuming you mean that, people aren't sort of as loyal to their employers as they were. Maybe people are hopping around a bit more. Is that what you were referencing?
Yeah, it's this feeling of what does loyalty mean? What does that define? And I think that's just changed. It's skill based versus role based. And I think there's different things people will want, especially in healthcare, where I'll use our industry, therapy. If you're an occupational therapist, you can go anywhere and somebody's calling you. Somebody has a need. So you have a lot of options. And I think it's starting to feel a little bit more like a gig workforce where,
Right.
and as an employer, you still want your core full-time tried and true staff, but we also need to accept that there are workers that they're looking for very specific shifts. They're looking for very specific settings, and you just want to know who they are. And then when you have a fit, be able to get in front of them. But you still have those pockets, those leaders who want it the old way where someone's gonna stay with you 4, 5, 6 years, it's just not as common. So we have to somewhat accept that, and healthcare's also challenging. We don't always have flexible, remote, hybrid options the way
Yeah,
some
you have to
businesses
be there.
do.
Yeah, you have to be there because, as you said earlier, people serving people. Beyond just acceptance, which is actually a big part of the solution, I imagine, how are you rising to that challenge? Like, how are you adapting to a new workforce with different expectations than maybe a decade ago or even 5 years ago?
It's hard. Some of the things we try to do is when you have what we call a PRN workforce, your temp workers, people who work various shifts, is to maximize how you use them. I think there was a time where they were probably more role specific. Think of an OT. They work in long-term care, or this one works in schools. And it's shifting to being able to work in all settings and finding those flexible workers. That's a way to use flexibility. Choose which setting you want to work in. Some love home health, some don't. But also, you got to use technology as well. Simple things, making sure every active employee knows what's available. Sounds like a first world problem. Like, how is that not the case? But it's surprisingly hard when you're in 44 states to make sure everybody knows what options exist. And
You're not
technology,
alone in that. I met with a CHRO the other day on the program who was talking about something as simple as scheduling at a restaurant. So,
yeah,
totally different industry, but basically said the same thing. Like, it seems like it should be simple. It seems like the technology should be 100% there, and it's not always yet.
you know,
Like, people assume these things, and yet the tech might not have actually caught up in the way that even employees are assuming it should have, right?
right. And I think there is a parallel with like a restaurant in some of our settings in that depending on the day, depending on what's going on, the needs or the hours available will vary. And you want technology to predict that a little bit better so that you're not scrambling either because you have needs you can't fill or you're overstaffed. And now what do you do with these extra hours that aren't quote unquote productive?
Right. Right. Talk to me a little bit more about like the tech, how tech has changed over your career, not just maybe for the staffing or the workers that you support, but even as a people leader, right? As the technology maybe that the business is using to serve your people. How has that changed?
One of the things I was thinking about is how much more technology is an ecosystem. Everything connects now or has to connect. Whereas I think you could get away with it 5 years ago, even certainly beyond that, where you look at this data point over here in this system and this data point over here in this system. But now you have to overlay everything, turnover connected to your comp system, to your scheduling system, to see the real analytics around, what so you're not guessing, like, what's driving turnover here? Oh, it's the supervisor. It may not be. Maybe the scheduling practices. Being able to connect these dots and use whether it's Power BI type tools or AI tools to take some of that guesswork out and make better decisions. And it also realizing markets are different, individual locations will be different, and it's not a one size fits all. And I think that's some of the hardest part is it's not always this big swath, wide ranging fix. It's a very specific fix here, and it's a very different fix here, and that's not easy. But technology has to help us with that.
Yeah, it's like there's no such thing as an easy button, right? Or else you would have smashed it already.
We would already done it.
You would have already done it. Yeah, so it really is that painstaking work of being kind of surgical about it. And tiny little 1% gains. It's like you have to build the habits that build up to long-term impact. There's no
Right.
um yeah, as much as we all wish there were. I know some days I'm like, why is this not easier?
And
I mean,
it's a good example is it's there's still folks I think out there that think, "Oh, we just pay more." That if that solved everything, there would be organizations just doing that. Like, it's not that. That's one piece, but it's not everything.
yeah, your comp strategy is one piece of because then it would be the schedule or then it would be career potential or it would be something else, right? Um talk to me about some other challenges maybe of, I'm assuming, you're a great HR leader. Most great HR have a listening strategy. What are you hearing from your people? Like, how would they characterize their biggest challenge? Because I know the business, is trying to get predictive schedules and is trying to retain talent. What are they struggling with?
It can vary a little bit, but I think from a frontline standpoint, it's balancing the continued complexities and administrative burden that you have to have in place for capturing data, for it could be for reimbursement. So there's an administrative piece of it that continues to grow in complexity. But at the end of the day, what they're really there to do and what they love to do and why they do this is to help people. And it's trying to find better ways to alleviate that side of it so they can do the mission work they were meant to do. And that's probably most organizations. And I think for us, as the leaders of the organization, it's how do we do that for them? How can we get there? Because productivities continue to be more and more important, and you have to deliver more and deliver more, and resources are scarce. How do we get them to a place where that's all they have to worry about? And that's challenging.
Absolutely. One of my best friends is an occupational therapist, and she talks an awful lot about. I mean, she's one of those people that just wants to help, like the born helper. She wants to help everybody. Heart of gold. Hates paperwork, and there's
Yeah.
just so much paperwork, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. But is technology sort of improving to allow people like her to spend more time actually servicing, at the end of the day, your customers?
I think it is, and it's trying to keep up with it. Example would be, and to use an example of a solution we're implementing. It's a Dart AI, and it's all around auditing records, making sure they're accurate so that there's no missteps, whether it's a reimbursement that's government related or getting information to a client. It can do it at a speed that no human can. So it's getting some of that work done automatically. I think there's more. I think of entering notes in a computer. Now you can voice the notes, and it's perfect and it's accurate, and that saves time. So there's just it's trying to keep up with all these tools. But again, like you said, your friend's experience is exactly what we do. The occupational therapists, they want to deliver occupational therapy. That's what they're meant to do. That's what
Yeah, go
they
figure.
love doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson here for like AI tools and tools in general is that often it's like the most simple use cases that people they start small, right? I think there are tools out there where if an occupational therapist in home health can voice note in the car driving to the next appointment and the AI can capture those notes perfectly, right? Like that's a victory that compounded over your entire workforce probably saves hours, keeps the
I'm
schedule on time, keeps them happy, right? So I love finding out about those types of use cases, the ones that are just so, like, practical that it
mhm.
hurts. Are
Yeah,
there any other use cases like that that you've sort of seen in healthcare?
it's a really small example, but my last organization, I was in senior living. I was at an organization called Commonwealth Senior Living, and we implemented an HR mascot, which is a simple AI tool. But what was neat about it, we could have it assigned to know all of basically all of Commonwealth, every policy, every procedure, every little thing. And the idea was sometimes a leader just needs a quick answer. They don't, and I think, and this is where I think sometimes in HR we're not as helpful. It's like, well, the policy's here, do this, and sometimes they just need that life preserver real fast. And the mascot was available 24/7, and it not only would say, "Oh, the policy's hit this," or "Here's the form, here's what you do next," and it would be very quick and simple and easy, and it also freed up our team from not having to field the kind of mundane to really when that person calls, no, they have a real challenging issue. That's why you're here, not to direct them to policies. Again, it's just trying to do those things at scale over and over. Like, where are those opportunities in the organization where it's not AI's not, or I'm using a lot of AI. AI is not going to replace every position. It's going to change them.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's been something that, I feel like in 2025, everybody said, "You're not behind on AI, you're not behind." And I think we gotta start changing that in 2026 because for use cases like that, if you haven't looked across your organization, whether you're in healthcare or you're in SaaS or you're in a restaurant, if people are asking you questions and you haven't set up AI powered knowledge bases for them, whether it's we have a tool called OneUp that manages our like security reviews and
Mhm.
sales, common sales questions, right?
Yeah.
It is such a time saver. And for things like what you're just mentioning, like the first tier questions that HR gets. I spoke with another woman who had 15,000 emails she audited in a year of just simple questions that AI is now assisting on answering. If you haven't set that up yet, I'm going to start changing my tune in 2026 to say, I think you are behind. I'll say it. You're a little
I
behind if
would
you
agree.
haven't tracked that yet.
I would agree. And
So,
what's interesting is the continued use of AI, like you're saying, every organization has probably some variation. If I always say, oh, but it's going to change some of the things we do in HR because there's inevitably going to be mistakes and issues and things we're not thinking about, and it's going to be complex, and then it's fragile. So how we become architects of this solution. It's not just IT; it's really everybody. But in a people business like healthcare, it's like we have to be out in front of how we use it.
yeah, absolutely. What do you think HR's role is in this transition? I think, I've talked to people about, HR has a place, the tech team has a place, legal has a place. What do you think HR's role in sort of AI adoption in the organization is, and how's that changing?
I think HR has to be fluent, pretty well fluent in AI and how it's used, and understand how each area of the business is using it. It'll help with peeking around corners, like those unintended issues and consequences that we're not thinking about. I think HR can be helpful in that and have a different lens. Your legal departments have a very specific lens. I love legal departments, don't get me wrong, but they have a very risk averse. I mean, you can't be totally risk averse. But it's also, I think, on the flip side, the human skills are the hard skills, and on the flip side, we have to be really good at developing those and upskilling people with those types of skills because the things that AI is replacing, there's still humans that need to do some really hard work, whether it's in communication and leading people. It's not gonna take the place. So HR can really help develop those skills along their for their workforce. But I think at the start, you gotta figure out where your gaps are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat today. Is there any sort of advice you have for our listeners, people who work in HR, who advice or encouragement? I always like to end there.
Yeah. Well, I think I love HR, and what I love about it is it just keeps growing. I mean, it's more complex today than ever. And I think my advice to whether you're young in your career or a CHRO is you be curious, be creative, don't shy away from innovation because it's a blank canvas out there in some settings. And I think that's a great opportunity for our profession, to just demonstrate the value, and you be the one bringing up the wild and crazy ideas that may actually stick and may actually solve something.
Yeah, I love it. I love you're an optimist and a creative. You don't see that every day.
Well, my claim to fame is I have 14-year-old triplets. So this stuff's easy, right? I mean, this is kind of the
Yeah.
easy way.
Yeah, you buried the lead on that one. Yeah, that puts a lot of things in perspective. It makes sense now. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Tommy. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks.